Hi, my name is Glenn Hasselman. I'm just making this video for the free accounting software users to show you guys how to transition from single touch parallel 1 to single touch parallel 2. The particular issue I want to cover in this video is overtime. So if you followed the previous video, you will have already upgraded your file and you'll have the new tax code available. So if I just go into tax codes, we'll see that we've got one called overtime. That's a new tax code. Just go into it. This is set up to be income type, salaries and wages, and gross classification of overtime. If we go to the accounts, we've got an account for time and a half, and that points to overtime as being the default tax code. Okay, now given that we're toward the end of the financial year, being partway through the year, there has been some pay slips already processed, let's say, which have overtime on them. So let's go and have a look. Okay, here's a pay slip which has got some time and a half on it. Now, previously, when these were processed, time and a half had the tax code gross taxable pay on it. So anything that was processed under time and a half was reported under gross amount, and that was correct because single touch parallel, they only wanted to get the one gross amount. Now we've got to disaggregate that into various components. So even though we set up the new tax code, this particular line on this transaction is not using that tax code, and even though we've changed the account to now point to the default tax code of overtime, that doesn't automatically change the tax codes on existing pay slips. Now, one way to solve this is you could go through and edit all your previous pay slips. However, that's not a good idea because you're changing a record of what was lodged and it was correct. You could put in a pay slip to put a negative on this account, that tax code, and then put a positive on the correct ones, and that would fix up the year to date. Now, thankfully, we don't have to do either of those things. So if we look here, this is ATO web page on guidance on the transition to STP2, and I'll put a link to this page on the website. Or you could just Google it, something like ATO transition to STP2, and you'll find this web page pretty easily. It says if full year data is not available. It's kind of like, well, the data is kind of available. We have been tracking it under the account time and a half, but it's sort of not easily available because we'd have to edit every single transaction. So the method of transitioning that I'm going to suggest to use is this one they call the hybrid disaggregate method. So what they're saying is in STP phase 1, you reported a single gross amount which was made up of several different payment types. In STP2, many of these need to be separately reported. So this is not just guidance about overtime. There are other things that need to be disaggregated, and the same logic applies. So if I quickly summarize what they're saying, and I'll let you read this in your own time, you basically just leave the STP1 stuff there, and you report, you start reporting under STP2. So what they're saying as well here is that they want you to put the have the amount. In this case, we've got time, normal pay as well as overtime, both reported under gross. You know, we're going to report that under gross in the new in STP2, and that's appropriate because the overtime is a small component. So the most relevant place for this to be reported is in the gross. So how to do that is we go to next batch, new pay slip, put in our pay slip. Now let's say we're paying some overtime, and you might not be paying overtime, you might just be watching this video because you're concerned about how the previous amount would have been reported. Okay, let me scroll down, and overtime, $180. That $180 is just the new overtime, with this gross amount figure here being made up of some overtime that was paid under single touch payroll 1 plus some normal time paid under single touch payroll 1, and that is fine. So that is following their guidance here under the hybrid disaggregate method. In fact, the example here on this page covers overtime. So yeah, there you go. Alright, I hope this video has been useful to you, and thanks for watching.